distressed to bother you. Where were you two all evening?
I went to the 7-Eleven Club about 10:30. I was there until almost 1.
See anyone you knew?
Yes, several people.
I'd like to talk to them.
I have no objections.
How about you, Miss McGuire?
She was at home all evening. I talked to her on the telephone.
I think Miss McGuire can answer for herself.
Well, I was gone for about a half an hour. I went to a restaurant nearby.
What time was that?
Oh, I should say about 11:30.
Look, surely you don't suspect either of us?
Just routine. Harmon. Check Miss McGuire's alibi. She said she went to a restaurant. She'll tell you where. It's okay, take her home.
Yes, Captain. Come on, miss.
I thought you went home, Mr. Craig.
I was on my way, Gladys, but this gentleman was curious about where I spent the evening.
You were here, of course.
Do you remember what time Mr. Craig came in?
Not exactly, but I think it was around 11:15. Say, what is this, a quiz?
My wife has been murdered, Gladys. And I'm number 1 on the suspect list.
But you were in the club, Mr. Craig.
Did you see him leave?
Why, yes. He took his hat. He checked it with me.
About what time was that?
It must have been after 12:30. I remember because my boyfriend had just called me to tell me he couldn't pick me up.
Thanks, Gladys.
Who else saw you?
I had a couple of drinks at the bar.
Sorry, Larry, but we're closed.
Steve, you remember my being here earlier this evening, don't you?
Sure, but I didn't think you'd remember. You were pretty well lit up.
How long did Mr. Craig stay?
Oh, a cop, huh?
Yeah. It's all right. Go on. Just routine.
Just long enough to have a couple of drinks. I'd say about 10 or 15 minutes.
Who else saw you?
From here, I went into Lucky Brandon's office. I was there for a few minutes. Then, on the way out, I bumped into Lucille Compton. She's the singer here at the club. She made me take a nap.
Wonder if she's still here.
Miss Compton still here?
I didn't see her go, though. She might still be in the dressing room.
Thanks, Steve. Well, are you satisfied I was here?
Yes, you have a perfect alibi, Mr. Craig. Almost too perfect.
Yes? Who is it?
It's Larry Craig. I have a friend with me. May we come in?
Sure. Come on.
Lucille, this is Captain Brown. It's Miss Compton.
Good evening, Miss Compton.
How do you do?
Lucille, you remember my being here earlier
If
this
you don't
evening?
mind, I'll ask the questions. What time did you first see Mr. Craig?
It was after my third number. That was about 10:55.
He says he went to sleep here in your dressing room. Is that right?
Why, yes. Say, what's this all about? What's happened?
My wife has been murdered, Lucille.
Oh, no, Larry. Why, I thought you hadn't heard from her in years.
Well, she came back about 2 weeks ago. The captain here is checking up on me.
Oh, Larry couldn't have had anything to do with it. Why, he was asleep on that couch until almost 1 o'clock.
Were you with him all that time?
Of course not. I had to work. But I stopped in as often as I could to see if he was all right. Believe me, Captain, Larry was in no condition to get off that couch. Come in.
Oh, didn't know you had company, Lucille. Just wanted to give you a check.
I'm glad you came in, Lucky.
Anything wrong, Captain?
The captain just wants to know what time you saw me early this evening.
What are you talking about? I didn't see you this evening.
Well, Lucky, you must be kidding. I was in your office. I helped myself to a drink.
You better lay off that liquor. You're beginning to imagine things.
Look, you were at the safe when I came in. Surely you must remember.
Look, you better see a psychiatrist. You weren't in my office. Not while I was there, anyway.
This is serious, Lucky. Larry's wife has been murdered. Why, he was right here in this room for a couple of hours anyway.
So he's got his alibis. You saw him. I didn't.
You're not telling the truth, Lucky, and you know it. Come to think of it, I wonder if you might not have a reason for lying. When I left here, you were sneaking in the back door. I called to you, and you pretended you didn't hear me.
Now I know you were drunk.
I don't believe there are any further questions. Thanks, Lucky. Run along now, Mr. Craig. If I need you, I'm sure I can find you.
Captain. Thanks, Lucy.
Captain, you don't think he possibly could have killed his wife, do you?
If he was here, he couldn't have. Good night, Miss Compton.
Come in, Captain. I didn't see him.
I believe you, Lucky. Just want to check a few things.
Sure.
You knew Norma Craig, didn't you?
Yeah, been friends for a long time.
Wasn't she interested in the 7-Eleven club?
She loaned me $10,000 when I first opened the club. I don't see what that has to do with the murder.
You didn't seem surprised when you heard she was dead.
I've got a poker face.
I wonder why Craig insists he saw you sneak in the rear door of the club.
He didn't see me sneak in the rear door or any other door. And for a very good reason. I never left the club all evening.
You're sure you didn't drop over to see Mrs. Craig just to say hello after her long absence?
Look, Captain, you're wasting your time with me. Why don't you try somebody else?
Well, I guess I'll be running along, Lucky.
Yeah. Drop in anytime.
Thanks.
Hello?
Oh, Vicky, darling. I was beginning to worry about you. You were so long answering the phone.
I just got in. The detectives wanted to talk to that girl in the restaurant who waited on me. We had to go to her boarding house.
Yeah, well, I had quite a session, too. Everyone at the club remembered seeing me, but Lucky Brandon. But don't worry, dear. It's going to be all right. I can't tell you how sorry I am to have dragged you into all this.
Well, it wasn't your fault, Larry. How were you to know? All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
Good night.
Sorry if I startled you, Miss McGuire.
How did you get in here?
You left your door unlocked. You must have a clear conscience.
What do you want, Captain?
I just got through talking to Mr. Harmon. He said the waitress didn't remember what time you were in.
But she did remember that I was there.
Why were you so nervous when you were in the restaurant?
Oh, I don't know. Mrs. Craig coming back from the murder and all those questions.
You came right back here from the restaurant?
Yes.
See anyone you knew?
No, I didn't.
No one called on you? You didn't drop in any other apartment?
I spent the evening reading and trying to get in touch with Larry.
Miss McGuire, tell me, when do you and Mr. Craig plan on being married?
Oh, I don't know. Certainly not until all this is cleared up.
If Mrs. Craig hadn't come back, you would be free to marry him?
In about 2 months. Mr. Craig had spoken to a lawyer about it.
Well, don't let these questions bother you. If I thought for a moment you had anything to do with the murder, you would be in jail right now, and that goes for Mr. Craig, too.
Then why are you here?
I've got to get all the information I can. Just routine. Sorry I disturbed you, Miss McGuire. Good night.
Good night, Captain. Larry, I'm sure Captain Brown suspects us.
Oh, that's ridiculous. He was satisfied with your explanation of where you spent the evening, wasn't he?
I'm afraid not. The only person who saw me was the girl in the restaurant. She doesn't remember what time she saw me.
You know, I can't figure him out anyway. At least 3 different people saw me at the 7-Eleven club, and I still don't think he's convinced I spent the evening there. I guess he figures my motive is too good to disregard.
Well, as far as the police are concerned, I wanted Norm out of the way, too.
Well, there's nothing we can do about it. But in the meantime, I'm hungry. How about you?
I'm stuffed.
Darling, you've got to snap out of it.
Oh, I'm all right.
No, you're not. Now, look, everything's going to work out fine.
I hope so. I'm afraid this is more serious than we think.
Hello? Hope I'm not intruding.
Oh, no, not at all, Captain. Sit down.
Thank you. How are you, Miss McGuire?
Fine, thank you.
Have some lunch.
Just finished.
Anything new on the case?
Not a thing. The murder was pretty clever. He left no fingerprints and absolutely no clues. Mr. Craig, why did you and your wife separate?
I don't know. Just didn't get along, I guess. Maybe it was my fault.
It wasn't because she helped him start the 7-Eleven club, was it?
No. Oh, although I knew about that. You see, I never questioned my wife about what she did with her money, Captain. It was hers. She inherited it from her mother.
Oh, I see. I didn't sleep very well last night. Kept thinking about something you said. You're sure you saw Brandon slip into the club?
Yes, I'm quite sure.
Was he interested in your wife? That is, personally?
I don't know. Although I always had the feeling Norma was quite fond of him.
And you didn't leave the club, not even for a little while?
No, Captain. Not even for a little while.
I'm going to have to do something pretty soon. DA's getting very impatient.
Look here, Captain Brown. I've established where I was the night of the murder. You don't believe it. Miss McGuire is the last person in the world you should suspect. And yet you pop up in her apartment, I suppose hoping that she'll say something to incriminate herself. Now, you're not following us around because you're lonesome. If you think we're guilty, why don't you arrest us?
You're jumping at conclusions. It's merely routine.
Well, I don't like your routine.
Well, I must be running along. Goodbye, Miss McGuire.
Bye, Captain.
I sure would like to know why Brandon wouldn't alibi for you. Good day.
Larry, I wonder why he did deny that he saw you.
I wish I knew.
Captain Brown evidently thinks he had something to do with the murder, or he wouldn't have brought up his name.
Maybe when I saw Lucky sneaking in the back of the club, he was coming back from Norma's. He wouldn't recognize me because he wanted an alibi for himself. He could bear watching.
Larry, I could do it.
Do what?
Watch him. Well, I could get a job in the club. He doesn't know me.
I thought you didn't like nightclubs.
Well, what difference does that make? Maybe I could find out something that even the police couldn't.
Vicky, you're not serious. Don't you realize that if Brandon is the murderer and he finds you snooping around the club, your life wouldn't be worth a plug nickel?
And don't you realize the spot we're in? Well, I've got to do it.
Oh, no.
Is Mr. Brandon here?
He won't be here for a couple of hours.
Oh, pardon me. Are you the girl who photographs the guests here?
Yes?
Could I see you for a moment?
Sure. Come in the dark room. I have to load some plates. What's on your mind, kid?
How would you like a vacation?
Who wouldn't?
Look, here's $50. I want your job for a couple of days.
What's the idea?
You've got to help me out. There's a guy here I'm just crazy about, and he doesn't even know that I exist. All I want to do is get acquainted.
Say, who is this Lucky Romeo?
The bartender.
Steve?
I don't know what there is about the guy, but he just sends me.
Now I've heard everything.
Will you do it?
Do you know how to work one of these cameras?
Of course, that's easy. What do you think?
I'll do it, but believe me, you're making a bad deal.
Thanks.
Hiya, Margie.
Let me look at you, Steve.
Hey, what's going on here?
Maybe I'm crazy.
Well, I ain't gonna argue that point with you, Margie.
Steve, a gal just came in here and gave me $50 to take my place, just so she could be near you.
Huh? What's the matter with her?
That's what I'd like to know. You're irresistible, that's all. Well, so long, Casanova.